have been ignoring a readathon for which I am one of the hosts for an entire month. I'm a terrible mother. Carrie Soto is back. We're still going with this. I'm on page 234 and I have got some thoughts. They're not all pleasant. I'm not a huge fan of Carrie herself. I don't particularly love her. She's got a lot of entitlement, and I feel like a lot of that is coming from her dad. Don't knock the camera. I feel like a lot of that is coming from her dad, kind of instilling this idea that she's the best tennis player in the world. An idea that she is the best of the best, and that's all she was put on this world to do. She was only put on this world to win Wimbledon. So I have got that. Also, there's quite a lot of Spanish in this book, and I understand that Carrie is from a Spanish-speaking background. I understand that her dad is Hispanic, so she will have had quite a lot of Spanish in her life growing up, but that does take me out of the book a little bit, because when there's phrases of Spanish between Carrie and her dad, I have to put the book down, go onto my phone or my tablet or my laptop, and go onto DeepL, which I use over Google Translate because it's a little bit more reliable, put in the phrase, see what it means. Oh, okay, that's the context. And then go back. And then 2 lines later, there might be another one. Or a couple of pages later, there might be another one. And it just takes me out of the story a little bit. It just takes me out of the experience of reading just a small bit, because I have to put the book down and bring it back. And then put it back down again, and ad nauseum. But I'm enjoying it. I don't think I'm enjoying it as much as I have other Taylor Jenkins Reid books. I don't think this is going to be one of my favorites. It'll probably end up being a high 3.5 to a low 4-star rating. I have this copy, but I also had a copy from NetGalley, so this can count for ARCtober. So I have almost got my first book of ARCtober finished 18 days into the month. Then we're going to go on to this little fellow. I have been ignoring NetGalley pretty much since time began. I don't remember the last time that I read a NetGalley book. There are a couple that I've just been approved for, including the new Lindsay Kelk, including the new Liz Nugent. But I'm going to go back and see if there's anything from a little bit further back in the queue. Maybe something that was approved to be published in June, July, August, that kind of a time. I'll go back through my account and see if there's anything that's got a little bit of a longer shelf life and see what I can pick up on. Okay, so let's take a look at what we do have. The first one that brings out to me here is The Christmas Wish by Lindsay Kelk, and I want to leave that until November, mainly because I read every single new Lindsay Kelk book that comes out in November, and I think it's also being published in November, so I want to leave it until then, basically. I've also got Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Lees, and I know that Lily from Literary Lily, who is another one of the ARCtober co-hosts, is obsessed with Chloe Lees. And we were talking about her yesterday, actually, and discussing this book, and we're going to leave it as a buddy read. So that's also off the table. How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. I've seen several people have talked about this. It's kind of a self-help book in the same way that How to Kill Your Family is a self-help book, in that it's not a self-help book at all, but more so kind of like a tongue-in-cheek look at families or look at men and look at dating. That's a possibility. I think I'll keep that onto the back burner. Strange Sally Diamond is another possibility, especially because it's a Liz Nugent book, it's a thriller, it's October, it's one of my newer releases, and I think that is one of the that's one of the prompts. This could probably fit into a couple of prompts if I take a look at the board again. Ophelia Ever After is another really good suggestion, as is Mrs. Porter Calling, but I do need to read the second book of the series, which is called Yours Cheerfully. It's the third book of the Dear Mrs. Bird series, and I think I would need to read Yours Cheerfully before I can read Mrs. Porter Calling. What else have we got? Love and Other Scams. For some reason, I got a copy of The Spanish Love Deception. I'm a big fan of Julie Kaplan, but I haven't read already the Tokyo book, the Ireland book, so I feel like it would be a bit weird to jump straight into the Scotland book at the moment, because there might be some side characters who appear in this book as the main character, or there might be some things that happen in this book that could influence what happened in the Scotland book that I haven't read, so I wouldn't have that context yet. All I Want for Christmas is another really good one, as is Titanic Day by Day, because I'm pretty sure that one of the prompts is a non-fiction book. And if there's anything about the Titanic in this, and if there's anything about the Titanic, if there's a book that even references the Titanic, I'm all over it. So I think I've got some ideas. I think that the kind of tentative TBR that I'm going to have for the rest of this month is Strange Sally Diamond, Titanic Day by Day, maybe The Spanish Love Deception, if I get around to it. And there was another one that caught my eye that I don't recall that I said I was going to read. How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. I'm going to have a look at all 4 of those. I'm going to try and fit them in the next 2 weeks and see where we end up from there. But first things first, we do have to go finish Carrie Soto Is Back. I have just been delivered of my first pair of Lucy and Yak dungarees, because I have seen literally everybody wearing them. Leena Norms wears them all the time. Charr from Thoroughly Enjoyed Books also recently got a pair, her first ever pair too. Charlotte from Books and Bargains kind of made me buy these, and obsessed. I'm obsessed. I'm ready to live my children's TV presenter dreams. I love these. I think I might even go and get another set, maybe the brown ones, the maroon ones or the black ones. But if anybody is looking for me, I'm going to be auditioning to present Blue Peter. I got one line today, so these felt appropriate. I still can't taste them. It's just nice to know that they're there. It's comforting. I went back to work today after 7 days of not being online, and somehow remembered how to do my job. Not only did I remember how to do my job, but I also was able to read an audiobook while at work. I think that's a slightly better angle. The book that I read and finished while I was at work was The Meet Cute Method by Portia McIntosh. I kind of abandoned the plans that I had made here fairly quickly when I realised that there were 3 Portia McIntosh books on my NetGalley TBR that I hadn't even attempted to touch. The Meet Cute Method answers the question of what would happen if How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and the Unhoneymooners had a baby. It's about Frankie, who is the dating and relationships expert, columnist, writer for a women's magazine in London. Her assignment at the moment is to write about meet cutes. So she's kind of setting herself up on a huge amount of meet cutes. So losing a dog in the park. She doesn't have a dog. Or bumping into somebody in a coffee shop and spilling coffee all over their shirt. And then in a lift in her office building, she runs into a guy called Max, and he brings her on a holiday to Maui in Hawaii, but doesn't tell her that the reason she has been brought to Hawaii is that he needs somebody to pretend to be his fiance, because he's told his family he's getting married, he's told his family he's with somebody new, and this is his new partner and all of that, but she hasn't actually materialized. I liked it. Some of it was a little bit too far-fetched for me. Some of it was a little bit kind of over the top. There were a couple of things that I kind of just genuinely stared at my phone and said, this is really not something that would happen. So you do have to kind of suspend your belief a little bit. I also think that it started a little bit slow. It was a little bit draggy for maybe about 30-40% of the book. And that's quite a lot of the book to wait for it to kick into second gear. It's quite a lot of the book to wait for something to happen. Overall, I enjoyed it. It wasn't exactly this is a book that exists and I read it territory, but it kind of towed the line a little bit at times. I love when the post is not bills. I had promised myself with such a long time that when all of the dentist work was done, when everything was done, when the teeth were in, and they're in, as you can see, I was going to treat myself to a book. And this is one that I've had my eye on for such a long time. I love that clean little rip. So, I don't know if this is going to be upside down or not, but, oh, it's fine. The book that I got is Rosalind Palmer Takes a Cake by Alexis Hall. I know a couple of people who've read this. Sylvie from the GBR Diaries has read it, and it's not her total normal genre. I don't think she reads a lot of romance books, but she really loved it. One of my in-life friends read it and loved it and said it was such a me book that she was surprised I haven't read it already. It has that kind of cozy vibes. It's got bake-off vibes. It's got a gentle male love interest. It's got a bisexual main character. It's got basically everything that I'm looking for in a book. So she's really concerned as to why I haven't read it yet. But now that I've got the book, it's time to correct that. Let's have a tiny update as to where we are. First of all, the celebration's RIP. Well, there's some of them left, but I wouldn't say it's like the kind of thing that I could bring to somebody's house in good faith, which is what I was technically supposed to do with them. I abandoned / DNF'd. I don't think I'm going to go back to it. Just Date and See by Portia McIntosh. It was just that the start was so slow. There was nothing happening for a good 15 to 20% of the book, and that's a little bit too long for me to sit around and wait on something to happen. It didn't catch my attention at all, which is sad because I love Portia McIntosh. She's one of my favourite UK authors. She's one of my favourite clean, cosy romance people, and I did enjoy the meet cute method. I think it might have just been a little bit slow to start as well, and when I had 2 slow starters in a row, it was just a little bit too much. So now, instead, I am 12% into How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. So far, I don't think it's like an instructions manual. It is about Kitty, who is a social media influencer. She has thousands upon thousands of Instagram followers. And one night when she's coming back from a night out with her friends, she accidentally kills somebody. And there's a couple of things so far in it that I'm not entirely sure if I'm on board with. Every single time she talks about a friend or a person that we're meeting for the first time, it's immediately followed by how many Instagram followers they have, which makes me feel like a lot of the relationships in this book are going to be transactional. It's going to be more so, what can I get out of this relationship? What can they do for me? Rather than I actually genuinely like spending time with this person. And there is quite a lot of Instagram in this book, which is kind of understandable as the main character is a social media influencer. But I don't know if that's going to get grating a little bit closer to the end. I am keeping an open mind because I know a couple of people who've read this and really enjoyed it. I've seen a couple of other mixed reviews on NetGalley and on Goodreads. I'm going to keep going with it. I'm going out in about half an hour, so I'm going to bring this book with me. I'm going to read it when I'm on the way, and let's see how we get on with it. To dye my hair red yesterday, and I don't think I anticipated just how red it was gonna come out. But welcome to autumn / winter, Aoife. I always go darker in autumn and lighter in summer. We're not here to talk about my hair. Yesterday I finished How to Kill Men and Get Away with It, and I read this book so that you don't have to. I swear to God, do not pick up this book. It is an entire clusterfuck. I don't even know where to explain what I didn't like about this book. The characters were completely unlikable the entire way through the book. There was no redeeming character any of the way throughout this book. It was insanity. There were more plot holes than there are holes in the sieve that I have in my kitchen. No matter what Kitty had done, it was always covered up fantastically. There was no way to trace it back to her. She had covered all of her tracks. If she had been found out, she had an instant lie that she could get around it. And it was so easy to actually find out that it was her, because she met a lot of the people that she had murdered. She met a lot of them through Tinder. So it would have been so easy to trace back the profile to where is it set up, where's the IP address coming from, all of that kind of thing. I think as well Katie Brent had a slightly unrealistic view of what Tinder is, because she said it was so easy to find people's profiles and she only went searching for a little while. And I think that she thinks that there's like a search bar on the top of a Tinder profile where you can put somebody's name in and they come up, rather than you probably have to scroll for about 6 years before you would find them. So that's another thing that was just a little bit too discreditable, that's the word. That was another thing that was just a little bit too discreditable to me. Overall, I did not have a good time with this book. I don't know if you can tell that from my basic demeanor today, but this book was not a good time for me. I have no idea now where to go next. Today is the 26th of October, so I'm not really going to start my winter TBR, because for Irish people, winter starts in November. So I'm not going to start my winter TBR until we get to November, and when I'm back over at my parents' house, I'm going back to Ireland for 2 weeks on Saturday. I'm bringing some of the books that are on my winter TBR with me, and I'm going to have a look at them when I'm over there. There are a couple of books that I've got in my mind. I know that Charlotte from Books and Bargains really wants me to read The Ex Appeal, and I feel like that might be a good one for like Halloween, October time. A friend of mine and I also want to read The Kiss Curse, which is the second book of the XX, which I read at the start of the month. So I've got options, I just don't really know where to go from here. So I think today, instead, I'm going to take it as a podcast day, listen to a couple of podcasts about books that I have read or other different types of podcasts, and just kind of reset in that situation, and then come back to books maybe tomorrow or the day after and see where we go from there. Before we go any further, my hair has calmed, thank you. It's the same thing when you dye your hair. Initially it's like fire truck red, and then you give it a couple of days and you give it a couple of washes and it starts to look the chestnutty reddy brown that I wanted it to be at the start. So I have a cup of tea. I have 5 minutes until Taskmaster starts, but for the evening I have been reading The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is set on an island off the coast of Ireland, off the coast of Galway, but it actually gives me really big Great Blasket vibes. The Great Blasket and the Blasket Islands in general are a group of small islands off the coast of Kerry in the southern coast of Ireland. They have been uninhabited since the 1950s, I want to say 1950s, 1960s, when the inhabitants of the Blaskets found out that there wasn't a lot of running water, there wouldn't be much power for electricity, there wouldn't be a lot of improvements done to roads or infrastructure on the island. So instead, they came from the Blasket Islands to mainland Ireland and set up their establishments there. The reason that I have such big Blasket Island energy is because this island is uninhabited, it's very harsh conditions, but the only people who are on the island are the owners of this hotel or B&B or inn, and that's where a wedding is taking place. And as of now in the book, there has been a murder outside the hotel, and you don't know who it is and you don't know who the murderer is. But something that I love about this book, and let me see if I can show you it on the page. I know I've already shown you, but this happens so rarely I have to show you it again. I know there's people out there who's like, my name appears in books all the time. This is not something that happens for the Aoifes of this world. And there is one instance where my name has actually been misspelled, I think intentionally, to one of the most common misspellings that I have come across, which is AIOFE. So far, I am genuinely really enjoying this. I'm really hooked to find out who was the murderer, who was murdered. And there are a lot of little side plots that I want to get swept up in. My dad has already read this. I've messaged him and told him that I was reading this book, and he said, let me know when you've read the final 20 pages. Red rag to a bull. I now want to read the final 20 pages, but it is bang on 10 o'clock and I have got Taskmaster to watch. Her in daylight, I actually don't think she's calmed down as much as I would like her to calm down. So let's give her another couple of washes and see. I'm going to finish some of the guest list as an audiobook during work because I just really want to get it done before Roisin and I start the Kiss Curse tonight. I'm also going to have dinner with a friend of mine who is spontaneously in Berlin today, and then tomorrow morning I've got to wake up and go back to Ireland. I've got a flight at 10, so I've got to figure out how I'm going to get to the airport, which is basically on the other side of Berlin to where I live right now. I'm basically going from the north right down to the south. But I feel like that makes this a good place to end the October vlog. And then tomorrow, pick it back up for the start of November and you'll just see me getting on a plane with, hopefully, just one book in my hand. Considering how September went and how I was in a bit of a reading slump, October has really picked back up. At the moment, it is the 28th of October, but I'm sitting on 14 books and it's possible that there might be 16 by the end of October. Let's see how we get going. We'll see you in the middle of November to see A, how I got on with the guest list, and B, how I got on with the Kiss Curse. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.